All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Albert Garcia. I'm the chairman of the Wynwood Business Improvement District. Today is Monday, October 19th, and we'd like to thank you for joining us. If you are watching us on Facebook or via Zoom or at wynwoodmiami.com, we encourage you to follow along by downloading our agenda, which is posted on our website. And before we get started this morning, because this is a virtual meeting of the Wynwood Business Improvement District, I'm required to read a statement. Followed by that, you will hear from our city attorney, and then we will begin today's meeting. Pursuant to Executive Order number 20139, issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on June 3, 2020, local governmental bodies may conduct meetings without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location, and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 subsection 5B2 of the Florida statutes. Procedures for the public comment will be explained by the city attorney shortly. The members of the Wynwood Business Improvement District Board of Directors appearing remotely for this meeting today are David Charette, Gabrielle Braha Isaac, Marlo Courtney, Irving Lerner, Glenn Orgen, John Paul Perez, and Sven Bachland. Also appearing remotely today are Manny Gonzalez, the Wynwood Bid Executive Director, and Daniel Diaz, the City Attorney. Mr. City Attorney, please state the procedures to be followed during today's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any person who's a lobbyist pursuant to Chapter 2, Article 6 of the City Code must register with the City Clerk to comply with related city requirements for lobbyists before appearing before the bid. A person may not lobby a city official, board member, or staff member until registering. A copy of the code section about lobbyists is available at the City Clerk's office or online at www.municode.com. In accordance with Section 2-888 of the Florida statutes, of the City Code, written notice for this virtual meeting was provided to the City Clerk at least 7 days prior to this virtual meeting. Since this is a virtual meeting as authorized by the Governor of the State of Florida, members of the public wishing to address the body may do so by visiting wynwoodmiami.com/virtual meeting to submit their written comments via the online comment form. Members of the public may also call 786-610-4830 to provide comments via the dedicated Wynwood Bid public comment voicemail. All comments submitted will be included as part of the public record for this virtual meeting and will be considered by the bid prior to any action taken. The bid will accommodate any speakers desiring to appear in person, subject to all applicable emergency measures in place to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. Speakers who appear in person will be subject to screening for symptoms of COVID-19. Any person exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19 will not be permitted to enter the bid office. All interested parties are required to abide by all state, county, and local emergency orders and are urged to remain at home and practice social distancing. If the proposition is being continued or rescheduled, the opportunity to be heard may be at such later date before the bid takes action on such proposition. When addressing the bid, the member of the public must first state his or her name, his or her address, and what item will be spoken about. When the bid takes action or votes on any proposition before it, it shall do so by a roll call vote, which shall be recorded by the executive director and included in the record. Please silence all cell phones and other noise-making devices at this time. Any person with a disability requiring assistance, auxiliary aids, and services for this meeting may notify the City Clerk and Bid Executive Director. Please note bid board members have generally been briefed by bid staff and/or the City Attorney's Office on items on the agenda today. The bid is using Zoom to hold its October 19th, 2020 virtual meeting. Zoom is a cloud platform for video and audio conferencing, collaboration, chat, and webinars across mobile devices, desktops, telephones, and room systems. In order to ensure that the public has the ability to view this meeting, the bid will broadcast the meeting, and the meeting will be viewed on the bid's Facebook page at facebook.com/WynwoodMiami. Additionally, the bid has not selected a virtual platform that requires the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to watch this meeting. Aside from the Zoom platform and that the participants will be appearing remotely, the public will have no discernible difference in their ability to watch this meeting. The bid has developed several new methods for ensuring public comment for the virtual meeting. It has established 2 new options. The first new option allows the public to provide public comments via the dedicated bid public comment voicemail by calling 786-610-4830, where an individual will be able to leave a 2-minute message that will be played during the virtual bid meeting. The second new option allows the public to submit comments via the bid's online comment form. The comments submitted through the comment form have been distributed to the board members and bid staff throughout the day so that the bid board members can consider the comments prior to taking any action. Additionally, the online comment form will remain open during the meeting to accept comments and distribute to the bid board members up until the chairman closes public comment. For all the aforementioned options, all the comments received will be included in the public record for this virtual meeting. For these two new options, the bid also created a simple set of instructions explaining how the public may submit their comments with either option. Those instructions were provided in the notice to the public and published online at wynwoodmiami.com/virtual meeting. Additionally, like any other bid meeting, the public may provide public comment at the bid's office. The bid has set up a terminal in the event members of the public wish to travel to the bid office to provide this public comment. However, due to COVID-19, all speakers desiring to appear in person will be subject to all applicable emergency measures in place to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. Speakers who appear in person will be subject to screening for symptoms of COVID-19. Any persons exhibiting any symptoms of COVID-19 will not be permitted to enter the bid office, but will be able to participate through the remote options described above. These three public comment options established and provided for this virtual meeting comply with sections 286.0114 and section 120.54 of the Florida statutes. The bid is published an agenda as well as included in the notice to the public pursuant to our city code and the items and topics that will be discussed at this virtual bid meeting. Additionally, the public has been given the opportunity to provide public comment during the meeting through the terminal at the bid office and online public comment form, and within reasonable proximity and time before the meeting and during the meeting via the public comment voicemail and online public comment form. Moreover, section 286.0114, subsection 4C of the Florida statute specifically authorizes the bid to, quote, prescribe procedures or forms for an individual to use in order to inform the board or commission of a desire to be heard, to indicate his or her support, opposition, or neutrality on a proposition, end of quote. The bid, through its three public comment options, has provided three different options and procedures and forms to indicate, among other things, his or her support, opposition, and neutrality in the items and topics to be discussed at this virtual bid meeting. The bid has provided information on how to submit its comments in the notice to the public on its dedicated webpage and via its social media channels. Mr. Chairman, are you comfortable with the notice provisions set forth and these uniform rules and procedures we've established for this virtual meeting?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. All right, so turning on to our agenda, we're going to go right into our approval of the August 12th, 2020 virtual meeting minutes, followed by the approval of the September 9th, 2020 meeting minutes. So in your packets, you should have received both of the minutes. We'll start with the August 12th, 2020 minutes. So if you could just please take a moment to review those minutes in your packet. And if there are any questions or comments about those minutes for staff, we ask that you unmute yourself.
Real quickly, Mr. Chairman, there's three small corrections. So basically on page 7, we are going to change the reference from NRD2 to actually say NRD1. That was a typo. On page 8, there's a reference that says that we're going to change the time from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. That was also, we had that incorrect, the times that are on the minutes. And then on page 8, there's also a sentence that says we're going to add city manager will have the discretionary ability to lower the decibel threshold during the pilot program with consent of the Wynwood bid board. So that's just clarifications from hearing the minutes on the video over again. And then on page 9, there's a public benefit, and basically there's a 0 missing, so it should read 1,759,000, and then that's a 0 missing at the end. And we also had a check for 1,000,006, and there's a 0 missing there, so it reads right now as 100,000.
Thank you, Manny.
That's it.
Thank you for pointing those out. Just quickly, gentlemen, are there any other questions or comments regarding the August 12 meeting minutes?
And if I may, Chairman, these
Yes.
are the minutes that we spoke about Ike during the presentation. Anna presented to the board. Did I lose? Did I drop?
No, we still hear you, Manny.
Yeah, sorry, my screen went blank. We also had David Snow presenting the first version of the streetscape and street tree master plan. And then we had new business in regards to, we had the resolutions for the commuter rail station, the support for the Ike, in which at the next meeting minutes, you'll see the additions that we had after the board, and then the support for the schematics design of Northwest First Ave 1.
All right, perfect. I'm going to ask Chris to bring us back on screen. Board members, are there any other questions or comments regarding the minutes for for August 12th?
No.
Nope. Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Marlo's recognized first. Second? JP. All right. I ask everybody to unmute themselves. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended by the executive director for the August 12th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Minutes have been approved. Thank you. Moving on to the next set of minutes for September 9th. Those are also in your packet. So if you could please scroll down towards those. And similarly, please take a moment to review them if you haven't already. Mr. Executive Director, are there any staff changes here that we should be?
There are not. Everything is looks great. Just on page 4, there was a reference that the budget meeting was going to occur the day after this meeting, which that did happen and we passed. There's also reference to the upcoming signage workshops, which were facilitated on September 25th at 9:30 and 11:30. That was literally the big ticket items that were on that.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Well, I'm going to ask Chris to bring us back on screen. Are there any questions or comments for Manny and staff regarding the minutes for the September 9th meeting? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right. Second? Need a second motion?
Second.
All right. John Paul's recognized second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting minutes for September 9th have been adopted. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving on to our agenda, we are now going to the public comments section. So as you heard earlier from our city attorney, there are multiple ways to get involved. If you are watching again, our agenda is available at wynwoodmiami.com. And for public comments, I'm going to ask Chris, is there anybody at the Wynwood bid office who's there in person who wishes to be heard?
No, there's nobody here.
Okay. And Chris, is there anyone that has submitted written public comments?
There are no written comments.
Okay. And are there any members that have signed up through the Zoom platform who wish to be heard today?
We have a couple that are in the lobby.
All right. So if you are in the lobby and you wish to be heard, please raise your hand virtually through the application, and we will bring you in one by one. Chris will go ahead and bring them in, and then as you enter, we're going to ask you to state your name, your address, and then you have 2 minutes. Chris, would you like for me to pull them in, or will you?
You can. I don't see anyone right now with a raised hand.
Okay. I don't see anybody with a raised hand either. So again, if you are watching us via Zoom and you wish to be heard during public comments, this would be the time to raise your virtual hand. You could do so through the Zoom platform by selecting raise hand. Seeing that nobody has risen their hand, we are going to close public comments on our agenda at this time. Of course, if anybody submits a written comment during the meeting, they will be circulated amongst the board members by bid staff and included as part of the final public record for the meeting. Moving on in our agenda to the executive director report. Manny, please take it away.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief since there's a lot of information. So basically within your executive director report, you're going to find from the city of Miami an email from October 9th. Basically what has happened is they have waived the 2020 holiday moratorium. This is the moratorium that occurs the day before Thanksgiving weekend. So due to the need for the city to continue moving. They have waived that for the year. And the flyer and the information is within your packets in the case you need to share with your contractors. Today at 2 p.m., we have an ethics workshop at the City of Miami. If you do have time to attend, within your packet is the Zoom link and the registration. There's also the ordinance that basically backs up, that references the need for all new board members and current to attend if they haven't done so. In regards to, we also have a COVID flyer. So we were working with the city manager on the weekend in which, well, it's been two turbulent weekends now with enforcing the guidelines, specifically the closing times and what the city and the county and the governor are looking for. So the city of Miami created a COVID rule flyer that we have attached. This was sent from the manager's office, and it was sent for us to disseminate to all the businesses through the Wynwood bid, downtown DDA, and Coconut Grove bid, to kind of help our merchants understand what are the rules that are in place right now, since it's a little bit confusing. Also within your packet, you're going to find the City of Miami Recovery Report. This is the report that was dated 10/4 or 10/8. Now, the one from last week that has still not been shared with the City of Miami is going to reflect higher numbers, specifically because of the Columbus Day weekend. But right now, for what you have in your papers, you're going to see that on-street revenue, Brickell remains number one with about 3,700 daily in transactions. Wynwood is number two. Omni is in third place. So Wynwood continues our 50 blocks to remain strong in comparison to the larger footprint of Brickell. You're going to see that there's a massive spike that's starting to occur in October of 2020 when it comes to revenue. And all the graphs are there for your files you can see in detail the different colors. Right now, the business tax receipts at the City of Miami take about 3.8 days to obtain. And to obtain a certificate of use, it takes about 36 days right now to obtain. So those are just statistics from the city. Permits have been lowering since March 2020, and that's obviously because of due to the massive downtick of permit submissions due to COVID. Now, another statistic within the report is migration. So they actually have searches for people that are looking to move, specifically to Miami, Florida, or Florida. And within your report, you're going to see that the first state right now is New York. They have 24%. That makes up of the searches, people looking to move southeast. You have Washington, Chicago, and Boston, respectively. So that's within your packets. You're going to find graphs for hotel demand. They're still, very low compared to last year's. It's been increasing slowly since the week of September 25th, but it's all tied to domestic and international travel, which you'll see on the bottom graph under. We're still very, very low. So as international reflects 90% from its peak of January 2020, it's remained flat with a slight increase in August. Domestic has also hit rock bottom in April. It's been slowly creeping up, but it's still at 64% negative compared to last year. So right now, without domestic and international, you're going to see that correlation with hotels. Mobility-wise, residential mobility stayed steady. You'll see the graphs. Now, when it comes to the mobility regarding train stations, that's down 56 baseline points. Retail and recreation are down 33 baseline points. Grocery shopping down 20 baseline points. Parks and recreation down 47 baseline points. And mobility workspaces down 24 baseline points. So as you can tell, we're still playing from behind on various different fields. Also, when it comes to COVID, as of 10/6, there were 172,000 cumulative cases. The peaks that were experienced in Florida were August and July of 2020. In regards to the restaurant recovery, it takes about 5 days for the city of Miami to process. There's 12 restaurants that are participating right now at the city within Wynwood. We have 131 barricades that are currently out. Propaganda and the body were the last that were installed. And number 3, social is on deck for installations at some point in November. Other than that, that is all that I have. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Manny, that guideline that is in here for business owners that was sent out, when was that made? And it seems like some things have changed in the past week that there's a lot of confusion on.
And that is what's happening every weekend. It literally changes, especially now that we had this counter by Tootsie's with the governor. So this one was actually sent last Monday. That was the first week that we had all this confusion. So there should be a new one that will come out. Tomorrow is our recovery meeting at 10 a.m. So at tomorrow, we should have a new one that will be sent out. But right now, everything is in flux.
Because, I mean, speaking on behalf of business restaurant owners in the neighborhood, I mean, there was a blitzkrieg of code enforcement on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then the news of Tootsie's came out, and it kind of backed off over the weekend, and everybody is kind of waiting in limbs to find out what we can or can't do. I mean, we know we're open till 3, but can we play music? Can we not? And I think everybody's kind of waiting and holding their breath on that.
And I experienced that firsthand on the Tuesday and Wednesday. Everybody was calling, a lot of confusion. I did notice that over the weekend it did stop. We didn't get, hopefully we tried to educate the folks, that got burned. You would look at the pictures and outside there wasn't, the line, they're literally, shoulder to shoulder versus 6 feet. I know that there were issues with music. Even this Friday, I was talking to Racket and we were waiting for something from the governor. So there's so much information right now that's convoluted that hopefully we'll have some better ideas once this, they challenge this court case and they hear the appeal. Other than that, that's what the big one that we're waiting on right now.
Okay, and who sends that out tomorrow, just so I can kind of report back?
That will come from the Wynwood bid from Chris
okay.
And the PR team.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Manny regarding his report?
One question. Manny, who is on the recovery call, this weekly recovery call? Who is the,
what happens is you have Fernando Casamayor, which is one of the city managers. He's in charge of the pandemic recovery for the city. You have Charisse, which is also a representative that works with Fernando compiling the statistics under the recovery team. And then you have representatives from the Downtown Development Authority. You have representatives from the Grove bid. And you have representatives from the Wynwood bid. And I believe 2 other organizations from the city. So basically they're the ones that compile the reports. They send them to the leaders of our different organizations. And then it's up to us to kind of do whatever we want with it. On our end, we just try to share it with you guys so you guys understand week to week what we're seeing.
So that meeting does not include county officials or state officials. It's purely city.
Correct. And I believe, Marlo, there is a Friday meeting that the mayor picked representatives for like his own recovery team that occurs. And that one is a little more high level. And I know that there are representatives from the county in different departments. Ours is more what we're seeing on the streets, what we could do to work together and provide the granular, and then they give us, the statistics. But that Friday meeting is the one, we don't have access to it, but that one does have county.
Any other questions for Manny? Okay, we're gonna bring Alexander Sanchez, the Wynwood Bids project coordinator, to join us for his segment of his report. Alexander, please feel free to take it away.
Good morning, everyone.
Is Alexander joining us today? Okay, we're going to skip over his report.
He's on mute. He should be good now.
Oh, okay.
All right. Good morning, bid board. Sorry for the small hiccup. So first up is that on September 30th, the Wynwood bid submitted a report of homeless encampments in anticipation of homeless outreach and cleanup scheduled for October 13th. It was, started at 8 a.m. and it was pretty successful. Next, we have the rubber mulch update, which we did a walkthrough of Northwest 2nd Avenue with Easy Mulch, and a work order was signed on September 30th. I was notified just this Friday that they were going to start doing the work on 2nd Avenue today. So they should be out there on the street right now working on that. Next up is that FPL recently completed the retrofit of the LED streetlights on North Miami Avenue and Northwest 20th Street. If you recall, around June of last year, the streetlights on Northwest 2nd Avenue were replaced with LEDs, but the agreement with the county and FPL did not include the remaining county roads, which were 20th and North Miami. So we had to resubmit a formal request on September 2019, and we just got them, I would say, a week or two. And now we can definitely say that Wynwood is fully LED. And in the next slide, you'll see some photos of what they look like. It's not the best. I'm not the great photographer, but that's what it looks like. And it really does make a difference in person. And lastly, Miami-Dade County recently basically did replace the existing pedestrian features on the corner of Northwest 20th Street and Northwest 1st Avenue. Can we go to the next slide? On the next slide, you'll see a before and after of what it kind of looked like. It was originally reported in April 2019, and it was just completed very recently. So that's what it looks like now, and it's a lot better, a lot safer. And that'll be it for my report.
All right. Thank you, Alexander. Any questions for Alexander?
Yeah, one. Alexander, in terms of the homeless encampment issue, which, we know is a sensitive but, serious issue, and I know that on Northwest First Place, there's still a problem that is very apparent out there. So I guess the question is, it's great that there's, or my comment is, it's great that there's some proactivity to get out there and help these people and do what needs to be done, and then urge the property owners that need to repair their properties to do so. But it seems to be a cycle that just keeps repeating itself. So do you have any suggestions of how we keep the right people keeping the pressure on the property owners to repair their fences, and as these property conditions then lend themselves to homeless encampments? And I just think that a lot can be done by property owners to to curtail the issues.
Understood. So with regards to that location that you were specifically mentioning, I've already reached out to the building department multiple times to basically ask for a new fence permit where they could actually bring it a little bit closer to the property line, and it wouldn't allow this situation to keep happening. I've yet to receive an answer with them, but I can be very persistent, and I'll keep going on that end. And then we're also going to be working with the Omni CRA, because our boundaries somewhat overlap, especially on the southeast quadrant of Wynwood, which a lot of these problems are occurring. And we're gonna basically work together and pool our resources to try and make this a little bit more, well, as you know, with the Omni CRA, their goal basically is to target slum and blight, and this is definitely within that. Um, and yeah, we're just gonna keep ramping up our efforts. As far as property owners, we definitely notify them whenever we see any issues, and we advise them proper action. You know, get no trespassing signs, get the police involved if they are within their property line, and within the public right of way, that we stick to the monthly homeless outreach and cleanups.
Marlo, if I may also, Alec, that was also the main intention of moving to this side, to this new office, because literally we just crossed the street and we are in that southeast quadrant where it needs help. So right now, like Alec referenced, the Omni CRA, you know, they have $90 million in budget. You have our neighbors also, the Overtown. And what happens is all three organizations overlap. So the Omni CRA has been really good in regards to cleaning from the North Miami all the way to 22nd behind Mana. But we are now gonna work even harder and together with different departments, because we understand that once development happens, which is occurring right now, they remove that house where the lady would always leave needles and things like that. That's going to help. We also have to monitor these empty fields as they start developing. But we're going to work with our organizations, because that's their focus, slum and blight. So we think that if, you know, they could give some grants to some of these owners to fix some properties, fix some lighting, additional, something to that effect, but it needs to be a cohesive plan. It just can't be coming every month and cleaning and then catching up and cleaning, because I know Alec is doing a good job, but I know the commander next, he could provide some input. It's hard to have these folks move out because of the Pottinger, but we're going to go back to the roots of this, Marlo, and we're going to attack this from the property all to the outside out, because it can't be done by itself like this.
Seems like most of the people, I don't notice private property vagrancy. I just notice the sidewalks. You know, they have tents. You know, I feel for these people. I don't know what social services, and maybe the commander can help. I know shouldn't be the police department's job, but it doesn't look like it's getting any better. They have tents. They're very comfy out there, and the weather's going to get nicer. So I don't know what's in the future here. Who's going to make life better? Social services, I guess. But I'm curious to hear where we're going with this.
And right now, Irving, to your point, they could only ask them for help. I know that there's a gentleman that Alex works for, Willie, and he goes out there a week in advance. He lets them know that they're coming. He then offers them help. He offers them this. Some of them take it, some don't, but guess what happens? Some other site gets evicted under a bridge somewhere, and then they migrate back over here, to your point. And then you have the folks with the food. So it's gotten better from the days I got here in 2017, but I think we still need a long way to go. And I think some lighting, additional lighting in that area, and foot traffic, it's going to help. But till we get there, we're going to have to use our partners and our resources, because we just don't have the funds, you know, to do something that broad.
And if I may add that as of recently, we've had to deal with an extra hurdle where the homeless assistance program, they cannot legally touch the tents themselves. So we have to kind of work around that. We have to basically pick up all the trash and, you know, keep offering them shelter. But if they don't want it, there's not much we can do to move them, legally speaking.
You know what might be helpful, gentlemen, since there's obviously ongoing concerns and discussion. I know staff, you know, works on this on a daily basis. Manny, what do you think if maybe we either invite somebody, from the various departments at the city for another follow-up, either virtual meeting or in-person meeting with the committee that, I know we have allocated for this topic, or if the board would like, we can invite whomever, you deem appropriate, Manny, to come provide a formal debriefing Q&A for the board. I know this has been an ongoing topic and one that I know has no easy solution to it, but I think it might just raise awareness of what's going on.
Now we'll have Alec schedule the leader at the city that spearheads this, and then he could provide an update to the board at the next meeting, kind of like what he sees, what he thinks would be the right answers. I know that we've also met with the shelters in the area. We met with Omni CRA. They were donating a couple $100,000 for additional beds. But like Alex said, if they don't want the beds, we can't force them in there. Similar to what's happening to Gabriel right now, we have a gentleman that's still sleeping there. They came for the last homeless last week. I was going to send them the pictures. They offer the gentleman help, and he likes it there. You know what I mean? And there's really no way to just, there's a right way and wrong way to do things. So I think if the city could give us more internal information and kind of like how they're handling it, we could provide them the recommendations and vice versa. And we could also have representatives from the Omni also attend, if you'd like, so they could listen in and we could just kind of share.
How about the county commission 3? How about that office? I don't know what role they play, but since they're going to be located in Wynwood soon in the next couple of years, they should, I don't know how the county would partake.
We'll invite Marta.
Okay, sounds good. So we will follow up. And it'll either be at the board level or a special committee meeting, single topic to this particular issue. All right, just kind of making sure we're still on the agenda. That was part of Alexander's report. So are there any other questions for our project coordinator before we move on? All right, Alexander, thank you very much for your work. And again, thank you for staying on top of the county with those LED retrofits. It's fantastic to see the neighborhood now fully illuminated at a much higher level. Great work. I know you've been on them for almost now 2 years. So thanks again.
Thank you, Albert.
All right, and now we're going to move on to the next portion of our agenda. This is for Commander Kerr and our monthly security update. Commander Kerr, good morning. Can you hear us?
Joe.
Wait, are we good?
We hear you loud and clear. Good morning.
All right, I got video too, I think. Maybe.
We're looking at a video of your surge protector and cable cords plugged into it. So just want to let you know your camera's on, but we don't see you, just so you know.
Here we go.
He's very high tech today.
Yeah, there you
Very
go.
high tech.
All right.
About now.
All right.
Hey, Dan.
All right. Hey,
So-
what's up?
Chris, if you want to pull up the commander on the full screen so we can see him, that'd be great. Commander
Or
Kerr.
worse. It might be worse.
Might be worse. Nah, I can't imagine that.
We're good. Wynwood is back. I don't know if you guys were out this weekend, but it was a madhouse. And so, touching briefly on what Manny talked about with the Tootsies legislation is gonna, I guess we'll have to refer to Tootsies v. City of Miami at some point. But basically, Judge Buchko, in her ruling, stated that the curfew was unenforceable at that venue. Shortly thereafter, the county attorney's office, the beach attorney's office, and the City of Miami mayor said that they would not be enforcing the curfew. And so that's what happened this weekend. There was no curfew enforcement. There was still technically COVID enforcement. So there was still social distancing, masks, allowed music that are still within the provisions of the emergency ordinance. The only thing that was really struck was the curfew aspect. That is going to be appealed to the 3rd DCA, I imagine, shortly. I would bet that they don't oppose her ruling. So the mayor's orders were, the governor's orders were pretty specific, and I imagine it holds up, but who knows? You can't predict what a judge is going to say. We are anticipating going forward that there is no curfew. So we're going to operate as if there is no curfew, which means for me having the additional police out there until about 3:30 in the morning, whereas they were kind of done by 12:30, 1 o'clock typically. Halloween obviously is hot on our minds. I'll get to that in a moment as far as what our plan is, but it's fluid, and as Manny says, it kind of changes every week. And I feel for Sven and the other business owners that even the ones who are supposed to be enforcing it, which is the officers working that task force, are it's difficult for them to even know what the current stance is, because obviously that was Friday night at 10 o'clock. We were getting this information, and we're kind of trying to get it updated off Twitter. And we don't want to ever go to the point where we're enforcing something where there's some kind of ambiguity and the people don't understand it. We understand it has an impact on a business when they shut a business down. At the same time, we're trying to balance that with the life safety and keeping these COVID numbers down, because if we do a spike, I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to do another shutdown, and then nobody's working. So it's very, very difficult, and there's good arguments on both sides. I just try to have everyone to remain calm and be patient. But this Saturday was intense out there. It was the busiest I've seen Wynwood since. It was busier than a regular night pre-COVID. This was like a holiday weekend. It was that packed. So I would imagine going forward, we're going to be similar to that, because it's kind of like the floodgates have opened. It's going to be hard to dial this back. So therefore, my crime concerns are back. We had more car break-ins this weekend. That's going to start crawling back. We did have a roadside robbery last week in the middle of the day. It was at about 6 o'clock at night on 24th Street. It was the victim was targeted on the side of the road right in front of the Cube. They're making some investigative steps there, and we appreciate the help that the business gave. We got some great cameras there. We also got the cameras on the bid. The bid cameras got the vehicle coming in, got the vehicle leaving. So once again, very helpful. But I ask everybody to get their guards back up. We've been really, really low on crime the last few months because the population's not there. So now that the population's coming back, we're going to get some, the upticks are going to come back. We're going to start getting the car break-ins. The lots are filling up again. So if there's no questions about any of that stuff, I'm going to go into the Halloween plan. It changed obviously this weekend because we did anticipate having a midnight curfew, which would help us pretty much clear the streets by 1 o'clock. It's a lot easier with that curfew. I'm going to act as if there will be no curfew. There may be, there may not. I don't know what the judges are going to decide, but let's pretend like there's not. It's going to be a very, very busy Halloween. It's a Saturday. It's the first real major event that everybody can come out to. It's not necessarily sanctioned by the city. It's not sanctioned by any individual entity in Wynwood, so it's very difficult for us to have control over it. It's not like there's a time that it opens and a time that it closes. Typically, we get around 100,000 people coming to Wynwood that night, regular Halloweens. This last Halloween, we estimated around 120,000 people. We get these numbers from the rideshare numbers, from the parking numbers, and from visual photos from the camera system. I'm expecting that large of a crowd this time. It's a Saturday, it's a full moon, and we get the extra hour at 2 o'clock. It goes to 1 o'clock. So it could be a very long night. We're going to pretend like it's as busy as it could be and prepare for it going forward. The road closures will be very similar. You know what? Let me see if I share my screen, because now that I'm here with you guys. Oh, you did. If you can enable my screen share, I can show you the map of the road closures. We basically have two. We call it the core road closure and a full road closure.
Commander, go ahead. You have permission to share screen.
All right. Let me get this up then. Do you see it? Maybe.
We see it.
Okay. Let me see if I can get on it. All right. This is the PowerPoint for the chief. So there's a map of the road closure. That's what you can see it, right, or no?
Yes, we see it.
Good? Okay. That's what we would call a full road closure. And so when you remember, this is not with barricades and water, things. This is the police cars closing. So every one of those blue dots is a police car and where their road closure is. If you look at the top half here, this is the full road closure when we have to close it all. The reason these side streets are closed is you can't have the cars coming in because 2nd Avenue will get so congested. So all of these streets here are still accessible to local traffic. So if a car comes up and says, I want to park right here on 27th Street, they're allowed to come in and park. That officer will notify them, hey, you're not going to get past 2nd Avenue because the streets are closed for pedestrian traffic. And again, we close this when it is unsafe for a car to ride up and down 2nd Avenue due to the volume of people. Last year that happened at around 9:30 p.m. We closed between 25th Street and 22nd Street. We call this the core closure. Remember, 24th Street's a one-way going this way, and then a one-way going this way. So the closure over here at 5 and 2-4, that officer's job is to let the cars come in to park at Wynwood 25 or any of these establishments along here. You have Le Chic and the taco place, things like that. 24th Street, obviously, they don't have to have a road closure because it's one way going this way. You do have some cars that are in parking lots over here that'll come out, and the officers kind of funnel those cars out. This area right here, 23rd Street, between Northwest 1 Court and 2 Avenue, was a really busy spot last year, so it's now included in the road closure because the volume of people just closed that anyway, so we were forced to have a road closure there. Let me show you, there's a better view of it here. So here's aerial views of what the road closures look like and the impacts. So there's our house, Brick will be here. You see how the police cars are out here. And that's controlling local traffic. So they'll let anyone who lives over here, they'll let them in. But if anybody drives in thinking they're going to get to 2nd Avenue, they'll tell them they're not. And then obviously there's an officer here in this intersection. Here's the southern portion. This spot right here got incredibly congested last year. So we have a road closure, and we basically reroute the traffic south on 1 Court and around there. Traffic concerns are, let me get off this screen share here. Traffic.
Can I ask you to pause for a moment, Commander? This is Albert. Can you go back to that screen that was showing the road closures from an aerial view, the map?
Sure. That one, or
the previous, the previous ones. Yep, that one. On Northwest 24th Street, I know that's a one-way that's eastbound. Is there going to be a car positioned at 2nd Avenue and 24th?
Yeah, so this is kind of where all the cars here, this is right here in front of Panther, that little cut where if you come off 24th, you got to go there. So there's an abundance of officers here. All these spots you see here are traffic posts. That's what they're showing. We have about 110 police officers working that night. So what you're seeing here are just traffic positions. This is the map we give them so they know where they're supposed to be and their unit numbers coincide with their intersections. So there's officers on all of these intersections here, but their role isn't for traffic so much as to have, I like to have a cop on every single corner, and they help with traffic if traffic does come through. But yeah, there's officers here, and this is kind of where we hang out anyways. So that's really the epicenter of the crowd right there between 2-4 and 2-3 Street. And it's definitely the busiest.
Commander, just to be clear, 2nd Ave is closed for foot traffic only. I mean, cars can't get through from 23rd to 24th, right?
Yes, typically by 9 o'clock, we lose the street. That's typical. Now, I don't know if that's going to be an earlier schedule this year. The officers are going to be out there starting at about 5:30 once I get them at a roll call. So last year we closed the core closure between 2-5 and 2-2 at 9:30. And at 11 o'clock, we had to close all the way to 29th Street because the crowd was just so thick. So I would anticipate having vehicles being impeded at around 8 o'clock, which is right when the sun's going down. So if you need to get ice in or your employees need to get in or any of those things, I would have them all ready to go by 8 o'clock because by 8 o'clock, I can't guarantee you're going to be able to drive in Wynwood. By 9:30, I can almost guarantee you won't be able to drive.
Okay, and then what about North Miami Ave with those 2 officers that you have on 29th and at the end of 24th?
There's actually more. These ones here are part of this counterflow. So there's officers on 26th, 27th, and 25th Street also, and at Miami and 20 Street. So there's officers up and down it. I'm anticipating busy Miami Avenue. That's what we've been getting. I'm hoping we have 2 lanes going both directions, but that's unlikely based upon the construction that I see out there. We're going to try to get it opened. So there's officers up and down Miami Avenue. I don't know if the factory is going to be open or not, but I would bet that Miami Avenue, as has been the last few years, is just getting busier and busier and busier.
So for North Miami Avenue, should we request with the MPA and others to not permit on-street parking after 7 p.m. on NMA so we can have those 2 additional lanes opened up?
Yes, typically at 2nd Avenue and Miami Avenue, we have no parking between 2-9 and 2-2 Street.
And that'll take effect at 7 p.m., you said, or 8 p.m.?
Yeah, they'll usually bag it up the day before. So the night before, he'll usually come out or early that morning and put the signs up, or bag the boxes, and it'll be the whole day because you don't really want them parking there and then say, hey, at 6 o'clock you have to move. You may not get the car out of there.
But it is a weekend, so it would be best if it's not bagged up Friday night, wouldn't you say? So that
Yes.
to request that they get bagged Saturday morning so that it's not would probably be a better situation if they don't come out.
Right, I think it's not so much the bagging they do. They actually put those metal signs up. So
Yeah, I know.
I'll have to reach out to Umberto to figure out what they're going to do. I think they do it the night before to make it easier for them, but they don't enforce it until the next day.
Yeah.
And really, we don't enforce it until about 6 o'clock that night.
Right. Yeah,
because
but
we
people
don't
don't
want
know
to
that.
Right.
People-
Yeah, I know.
People don't know that, so it creates it doesn't send a great message.
Sure.
Is there any way, Dan? I mean, just in the interest, of course, of Saturday night, as you say, this could be a huge night of people coming out and just cruising around. I mean, I know as we do operate a garage that is open to the public, but we're not able to put any signage out there on 29th Street or on Fifth Avenue. It's not, we don't have that ability to point people in the direction to even get to the garage. And this isn't going to be the easiest, not so easy to access because of some, is there any way that we could, and I'm not saying just the Goldman garage, but perhaps others as well, so you can at least curb the issue of cars just cruising around and around and around. There's going to be little street parking, and they may not know how to get to a garage a garage or a parking lot that will accommodate cars. I'm just wondering if you guys had any thought.
I like if when typically for Basel, the bid will put out that map with the same thing with the Uber locations. Remember, they have to go, the only way really into the core is off 3rd Avenue there. So there's an officer on 3rd Avenue and 29th Street. I'm hoping that road is open because it's been closed for the last week with construction. But that's really the way we get people to funnel into the garage, that garage, and also the garage on 23rd Street next to the school. Those are the lots that we primarily get people to come into. But I'm with you too. I don't want somebody to be confused as to where am I supposed to go to park. So 5th Avenue and 3rd Avenue are the easiest ways to get in. And then we have the cops try to direct them there. But I'm totally for a public relations campaign.
Can you try to get a couple of VMS signs that might then be able to be utilized by the bid, or Manny? Is that something possibly that we can get just to give people some decent wayfinding to at least get out of their car, get it parked so they're not cruising around? Any thoughts about that?
I know that the city and Commander, I don't know if you want to have that internal meeting leading up to Halloween that we have with like Bob's and all these guys. I know that they bring, the city of Miami usually gets like 2 or 3 VMS. I remember one year they spray painted it and we tried to take off the spray paint from the VMS. But in the case that they can't, Marlo will follow up with the Commander and Bob's and get whatever VMS is necessary to facilitate the circulation request.
Yeah, we have 4, but I think they put 2 up on the highway on 195 because remember we lock up 195 and I-95 with all the traffic flow. So they have it up there basically directing people over to Biscayne Boulevard as to not exit on Miami Avenue because it gets backed up. And we usually put the other one on, I want to say Miami and 29, but I'll have to verify what we had last year. Last year we did have 4, and we had the one on 2nd Avenue and 22nd Street.
Commander,
yeah, we
what
have
would
them.
you recommend that we get to fulfill the request for the garages?
Right. We have no Bobs this year. We're doing it all with police officers, all on duty police officers, because as you know, we have a budget crunch in the city of Miami.
Mhm.
So we don't have the resources for the hard barricades. But yeah, I like it at 5 and 2.9 and Miami and 2.9 because those are the two main ways people get in. And obviously northbound on 2nd Avenue, they get confused and try to go up that way. But the majority of the traffic comes in southbound on 2nd Avenue and then on 29th Street, either east or west. So anywhere over there, directing them to the right spots. Also, remember the social media stuff. It helps a lot when we show those maps, especially the Uber and Lyft pickup spots. I don't know if they're going to do them this year, but they kind of have to because there's no way to drive. You know what I mean? You're going to have to push out to those spots.
So
And the
if I may suggest then, Commander, what we should do is then have just an offline meeting so we can bring in Kivit and bid marketing together like we did last year for Basel, so we can generate those maps and start pushing them out through all of our channels in advance
Right.
of Halloween Day.
And we could
Yes,
invite
so-
MBA to get the
Right, no.
request to bag the meters for that Saturday versus the Friday night. And then we could invite Uber and Lyft
Mm-hmm.
to go over where they're going to do it so we could put it on the maps.
And make sure we can get those VMSs, and if there's financial issues, the big can step in, but let's get those things figured out soon.
Yeah, they don't mind if they get graffitied up. They now code them so that they can wash them. So
Cool.
we learned our lesson.
Okay, Commander, I know we kind of hijacked your presentation, so if you want to just kind of,
Oh, that's it.
yeah,
That's the end of the presentation. So the basics of it are similar to last year. The chief's office does not want flow. So like we did with Basel, where we push the buses down 2nd Avenue, they do not want me to do that. So we're going to have that hard closure. Everything is pretty much the same as before. There's no illegal vending. You know, there's no people selling water, stuff like that. I would ask the businesses to not put those third-party bars out on 2nd Avenue. Sometimes some of the businesses like to put a bar basically catering to foot traffic. No bueno. It just makes it real hard for us to keep that flow. I'm going to have about 20 bike officers out there doing their thing. So they're going to go from spot to spot, make sure there's no fights, make sure there's no anything odd. We have had an uptick in these illegal parties. So basically empty warehouses or privately owned spots that try to open a bar or a dance club late night thing. We had a lot of that during COVID, after hour stuff. I'm really, I can't speak enough about the life safety issue associated with that. You know, those warehouses are not built to have 100 kids in there. You know, there's no fire safety. There's no egress. It really freaks me out, and I don't want to have a disaster. So if we seem overly strict about those things, it's for a reason. If you don't have a certificate of use, you cannot operate, especially open to the public, inside of a business. And we're real strict about it. They're going to be strict about it that night. The task force that has been out there is basically code, and the neighborhood resource officers or the shield officers have been working for the chief, checking on businesses. They're all going to be in Wynwood that night. So while there is no curfew, they are still going to enforce those occupancy levels and the noise levels and the social distancing. I know it's virtually an impossible ask, but they are going to enforce it. They have to. They have an obligation to enforce it for everyone's safety. So understand when they show up, it's for the safety of the kids that are, you know, out there partying and spreading the super spreader event that is Halloween. We have to at least put an effort towards mitigating some of it.
But Commander, isn't Halloween considered a special event? I know a lot of bars and restaurants are really looking forward to that night to do Halloween events and so forth. Are the current COVID guidelines that were put out last week still going to be in place for Halloween, of no bars open, everybody must be sitting at a table, nobody's standing? It's been very hard for a lot of the bars and businesses to operate under those conditions, and everybody is patiently waiting for a little bit of guidance on how to move forward. Any thought or any suggestions on that for us?
Yeah, obviously it would make my life easier if they did relax it, because then I could worry on, just the life safety stuff and not the public health stuff, but it's not. So it's not a special event. There's nothing deemed different on that day. There was discussion on would they have a curfew that day, a broader curfew like the West Coast. Many cities are putting a sundown curfew on Halloween to deter the kids from walking around and parties and all that stuff. I don't think we're going that far, but they're certainly going to enforce it. And I get that it's virtually look, it was impossible this weekend really to abide by those COVID guidelines. It was really difficult. Halloween's going to be 10 times that, but that won't stop them from doing what they've been given that order from the elected officials, and they have that emergency ordinance in place. They're going to abide by it. So while the curfew time wise is lifted, the actual enforcement of the COVID guidelines has not lifted, and they're going to enforce it that night.
Thanks.
Unless it changes this weekend, which entirely could change this week. Who knows? We'll just keep paying attention. Any more Halloween questions?
I'm going to ask Chris to bring us all back on screen. Any other questions for Commander Kerr?
As Albert, as it relates to, it might not be a Commander Kerr question, but maybe, you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes?
we hear you.
Okay. It
Yep,
may
we hear
be, again, the whole idea is clean and safe, and, the commander can do his very best on the safe part. Happening over the weekend, and I know that, our sanitation crew, our clean team can only do so much on a Saturday, Sunday. Are there resources that are going to be available from the city side, Manny, or anyone that knows that are going to help us through? So at least on Sunday morning when everybody wakes up or during the day, it just doesn't look like, like a bomb went off.
Yeah, Marlo, historically, the city has helped us with the cleaning. They usually come once the sidewalk and the streets clear around 3 a.m. Then they would come in with their teams to clean. We've been doing that like the past 3 years. So that's the idea, because we don't have enough resources
I
with
know.
cleaners.
I know.
So,
So I'm just suggesting that you confirm all of those resources will be available so that the cans can be emptied, especially, and the litter that's surrounding the overflowing garbage cans don't create more of an eyesore and a nuisance, and then that creates safety issues in my view. So I'm just trying to, I just think that should be recognized.
we'll do.
So Manny, it sounds like we're going to have a coordinating meeting with solid waste, net, all the other key
Okay.
folks like we normally would for Basel.
The lift and
Yep.
all the folks. Yep.
Yep. Okay. And of course, we'll invite whoever wants to attend from the board. If more than one, we'll notice it. But typically staff handles this well on their own. All right. Any last questions for Commander Kerr on security, Halloween, etc.? All right. Seeing none, Commander, thank you very much
Thank
again
you.
for your time. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you,
I'm sure.
guys. We'll be out there. We'll have that meeting this week with Uber, and then we'll start pushing through our social media also. Once you guys make a nice clean sign map, we'll start pushing it out in anticipation. Hopefully that doesn't make more people come out.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Stay safe. All right, moving on in our agenda, we're going to head over to the finance update. We're going to hand it back over to Manny.
Thank you, Chairman. So real quickly, you have to understand that when we send these materials, we try to send them at least a week ahead of time. Sometimes these things aren't even finalized. So this is one of the ones that we're working with CCSG now. We closed the year. Now it's just a matter of reclassifying and finding these, connections with the city finance department. So right off the bat, when you look at the bid assessments for the fiscal year, we collected 658 out of 782, which leaves us with negative 124,000. When you look at assessments, it reads 96,000, but in reality, there's $288,000 that are missing from there. It's one check that was sent to the city. So in reality, we actually have 384,000 in that line item versus where it says 96. Under public benefit trust, it reads 0 because that money is not in a Wynwood bid account. It's in a City of Miami account. They are going to transfer it to us so we could get interest income, but we cannot use it. So since it's not an account, it reflects 0. But for the board to know, there's $3.3 million in that account right now, almost 3.4 million. And then what you're going to see towards the end of the year now, the total annual income is $1,063,000 with $690. When you add the 288 check that was missing for the waivers. When you look at expenses, you're going to see that we expended 1,000,008. So we should have a surplus at the end of the year of 55,617 when you apply this 288 that is missing. In regards to security, we only spent 637. Sanitation, we spent 105. Now the key to this is that right now we have 2 cleaners that are coming out of this G&A budget. So 71,000 for their 2 full-time cleaners would fit into that 105. So that would still put us under budget under that line item of cleaners of 188. When it comes to marketing, we were under budget, 79,000. When you look at G&A, this is a reclassification issue with CCSG, and I'll walk you through it, and it'll be reflected on the final ones when we send them. Right now, it has 577,000. Right, there's 117,000 of that is for security cameras. That item should fall under capital expenses. We also have 71,000 in cleaners inside that 577 of G&A that should be applied to sanitation, where we have negative 83,000 surplus there. We have a surplus of 83. So when you look at the rent, we went 3 months over because of the pandemic. We couldn't move. That was 16,000. We had a deposit that is going to be returned for us for 5,000. And then we had the administrative raises for the year. So when you reflect the total changes, the G&A should read 347,064 once we reclassify. So at the end, again, we should have a surplus of 55,617. Now, the aging report, this is where we need to start putting pressure on our property owners. We have 7 years right now of outstanding assessments, and 509,000 are outstanding right now. The fiscal year that just passed, letters were sent to property owners that have not paid with a warning that there would be that a lien could be applied. We have not applied liens. We're only giving them a warning because of the pandemic. So we're extending a little bit of time. Every other year has a lien on that property. So if you're going to sell or you're going to refinance, that money is deferred income, would come to us through the closing agency. In regards to waivers, right now there's 664,000 outstanding that we have invoices that have been sent and we're waiting payment on. And in regards to the trust fund, we have 3.8 million in the trust fund right now. So in short, that is a summary of how the year ends. Once we finalize these reclassifications, and then we have our annual audit that is due the week before Thanksgiving. So we have about 2 weeks to finalize all our financials to send it over to the auditors. They already audited 8 months of the year earlier this year, so they're only going to do 3, and then we're officially closed. And the audit needs to be delivered to the City of Miami prior to the end of the annual year, December 31st. Other than that, if there's any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Manny. Any questions for Manny on the year-end financials? I think the headline is that we balanced our budget. There's a surplus. Notwithstanding the pandemic, we were able to allocate funds as necessary for all of the emergency needs that were not originally anticipated, and we still provided all the services that would have otherwise been expected from us during a typical year. So I think all in all, the staff definitely deserves our gratitude for being able to juggle everything. We start our new year with a surplus, obviously, knowing that there's going to be challenges going in as we reopen our economy. So we're in great shape.
And Chairman, if I may, we're going to need to organize a meeting with the planning and zoning. Within your packet, we created a parking waiver application. There wasn't one at the city. It was just literally create an invoice, send it over. So we created an application that mirrors the one that's used in the Grove that we gave to the city to use, and they still use it. But we still need help, Chairman, with collecting some old invoices that are outstanding. And unfortunately, since they organize these connections with developers and with the councils that represent them, we need some push to get some of that money in.
Manny, let's draft a memo because we had previously provided that form.
Yep.
Let's provide a formal memo to the city manager, and we'll copy the respective directors from planning and zoning, as well as any others that need to be included into that. And that way we can follow up.
So Manny, what is the outstanding balance of the parking waivers that are owed?
So right now we have 664,000
owed.
But we also have developments like the Gateway on 29th that we have no clue if there are public benefit, if there's waivers associated with it. They're already building. And we've noticed that there's been some inconsistencies because sometimes I'll give you another example. We have the building that Hernando Carrillo's building on 26, the atriums. And the city was telling him they would send them an invoice by Friday. He comes to my office and he's like, what's going on? This is crazy. I've been waiting. And then I tell him, no, I send you the invoice. So the city is telling them they're going to, and all these different inconsistency, Marlo. We've also had one or two properties that have opened that we feel that we are owed money on. So there's a disconnect right now when buildings are coming up or what they're planned and the billing cycles that we have to send over to be in compliance with the ordinances. So right now it's kind of all over the place, but it should be a little more efficient.
Definitely. And these the parking waivers that are owed, those are not the way that the assessments where you can lien, you don't have the same ability on the parking waivers.
The only check and balance, Marlo, if I may, is you are not given a CU. The problem is that in the Grove, we entered it into the city system that when you enter the Grove address, this black screen with like the skull and bones comes out, right? And says, you must comply with Coconut Grove Parking Trust Fund. Now at the city, under Wynwood, that does not exist. So depending on the processor, he may not even be aware that there's parking waivers or trust fund. So that system is what we have to get efficient moving along because we're playing from behind every time. And I can't even get an answer on emails from 5 months ago.
Yeah, and this is largely an internal process issue, Marlo. It's not like a nefarious thing. It's just that there's no like IT component where when it's time to, submit final payment or prepayment, that some sort of like on-screen message flashes at the city to prompt the clerk to say, hey, don't forget about this payment or that payment. So because, Wynwood is unique in that regard, as is the Grove, this is not the typical workflow for the cashier at the city. So we have to work through that, but we'll stay on top of it. Obviously, we have receipts and we have paper trails, and we know where these dollars go. So they'll be collected one way or another, or liens will be filed at some point.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Manny on end of year statement and budget? All right. Seeing none. Thank you, Manny. We're going to move on to marketing and economic development on our agenda. I'm just going to change the order sequence here. We're going to start off with Chris and the marketing manager report. Chris, take it away.
Thanks, Albert. Guys, let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so I'll keep it pretty brief. Social media continues to grow, now over 198,000 of total audience. So we've seen a steady trend there, even through the pandemic. We keep going through with those efforts. COVID dining barricades, as Manny mentioned earlier, there's a couple more coming in. So I'm working with those individual businesses. So that way we can get their covers set up so they can get operating as soon as possible. One thing that was really cool this month is that Wynwood was named one of the 40 coolest neighborhoods in the world by Time Out. That came in at number 26 of the 40. So we had TripAdvisor the previous month, and now Time Out naming us this month. So it's cool to see that recognition is still coming in, and that even throughout the pandemic and all the altered state of affairs that the neighborhood has kind of had to go through. And then I mentioned this a couple meetings ago. So we have two different projects going on right now. One of them being a bridge video project. So Bridge Miami is going to be launching a platform soon. We collaborated with them to create 10 different videos so far of different Wynwood restaurants and retail spaces. So that way we'll be able to use on social media and all of our marketing efforts to really amplify everything that we do. It's always great to have new content. And I'll show you a preview for that here in a second. And then our For the Win social media campaign, we partnered with New Link as an outside agency. So it's going to be social media challenges over the next month. Our teasers have gone out as of last week. Tomorrow will be the first challenge that's posted with Soul Yoga. So with that one, there's 12 different businesses across all of our different categories. To hopefully get people excited, let them know that the neighborhood's open, and here's some of the places they can come to. And then finally, on the updates, we launched a development pipeline on our website. So if you go to wynwoodmiami.com/pipeline, you'll be able to see any of those projects that have come in really since the NRD was created, whether they're adaptive reuse or new construction. Generally, the criteria for that is that once a building starts construction, they'll go up on the site. So as we get more of those developments with shovels in the ground, we'll update that as we can to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page and can see what's going on. So here's just a screenshot of our timeout entry. Board members, if we haven't sent the link already, we'll make sure to send it out to you. But that's the excerpt for Wynwood. And then I'm gonna move over my screen real quick and let you guys see the teaser video from the New Link campaign first. So that's our teaser video that went out last week, has over 14,000 views already. So as I mentioned, that one kicks off tomorrow with Soul Yoga. We have CrossFit Wynwood, Minds Co-work, the Lab Miami, just to name a few of the participants. So keep an eye out on Wynwood Miami on our social media channels, especially on Instagram to learn how to enter. So our next preview here is one of the videos that we did with Bridge Miami, and this is of Base Superstore.
The most important thing for us as a bricks and mortar store, which there are fewer and fewer of, is really the experience in the store. That has a lot to do with how they're treated, how the store smells, how products are presented, how products are explained to them. We've always been known for our curation of different brands and different product categories. In addition to the clothing, we offer footwear, accessories like jewelry, sunglasses. There's a certain consistency in what people are finding in the store, and then always a newness as well that we try to bring to the mix. It's always been important to us to be part of the community. We've always tried to work with younger, smaller designers and being able to bring them into the store so people can discover something that's a little bit different. Because we're in Wynwood, there's a real appreciation for art. People want to see something and find something that they can maybe take home with them that represent Miami and the neighborhood.
So that was the base video. So we have 10 more of those that are completed already. So keep an eye out. Those will be going out on social and using them on website soon as well. And then that's all for my update.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
What did you guys think of those videos?
Awesome.
Amazing. Really great. Great.
They're beautiful, huh?
Exciting.
They look
Yeah.
really-
So we have many more. So as Chris mentioned, we're going to be dropping those on social. They're also going to be profiled on our website. And we're going to look for other ways to even broadcast them. This is part of our economic recovery package that we talked about earlier in the summertime. So all of these new various deliverables are coming just in time to be out and circulated to bring people back to the neighborhood. You're going to see a lot more of this as we move through high season, or I guess what used to be high season, through the rest of the year. And there's also some big projects that we're already working on for first quarter and second quarter of next year, which we'll give you guys an update on at our next board meeting. Moving on the topic of the agenda on commuter rail. So here's the latest on where we stand today, gentlemen. So tomorrow, the Board of County Commissioners will be having a virtual commission hearing, their typical hearing, of which there is an item on the agenda specific to the station locations. Unfortunately, the pending legislation still reads giving priority consideration to 3 station locations, none of which include a Wynwood Midtown Edgewater station. It's very important that the public, as well as stakeholders, including this board, call in for public comments for tomorrow's meeting. There will be an email circulated shortly after our board meeting today with instructions on how to do that. Last week, the county's Transportation and Finance Committee convened, and I'm happy to say that there several board members, as well as other members of the public, did provide public comments, and they did help shape the discussion that was had during that committee's meeting. Unfortunately, none of that is binding in the end. It does influence the outcome. So it's very important that tomorrow we have as much or more of a commitment from folks on this board, as well as those that we represent, to encourage them to be heard. Our goal is very simply to ensure that a station is included in the resolution that is pending, that will be heard. It's 11A3, that's the item number, 11A3. And we anticipate that piece of legislation will be heard in the afternoon portion of the county commission meeting. However, public comments start promptly at 9:30 a.m. So if you're not able to stick around for the rest of the meeting, at the very least, we ask that everybody make arrangements to be able to provide live comments at 9:30 a.m. And if you're not able to, the next best thing is to send an email to our elected officials. Mandy can provide you with the email addresses for the various commissioners if you don't already have those. And of course, at wynwoodmiami.com, you can also send a message to all the county commissioners through a pre-populated tool that's set up for everybody to use, not just for the board, but for the public at large. I'm going to ask Chris to bring us back on screen. Are there any questions regarding commuter rail and where we're at?
Albert, are you also suggesting that perhaps, as we had done a couple of weeks ago, we were gonna, you had written there were some bullet points so that maybe each member could instead of being, repeating one another, but to actually speak to some very salient points, which I thought you presented very well. Is it your idea to try to get the board to do that or just speak very extemporaneously on the issues?
I think it's the former. We'll have Manny provide talking points for all the members that are specific to what we think will provide us as a collective group. It's just difficult not knowing who's going to be able to make those commitments ahead of time. I mean, I guess I could put everybody on the spot. Is there anybody here who already knows they're not going to be able to provide live public comments tomorrow during the county meeting at 9:30? Or is everybody committing to doing so today?
So just to go over it again, because I know the last time I was on I spent a good deal of time on the phone, and maybe, I don't know who else, on this call was, but when you say at 9:30, so we would be called upon to speak. It's not, they record the message at 9:30 and then play it back, or you have to be, so you have to be on the call at 9:30 and then wait till 2 or 3 o'clock to actually.
No. So it's live at 9:30. And then they'll start the meeting just like we do here at the board. They'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. They'll do some.
And then each individual, as long as there won't be a 4-day rule imposed tomorrow. So for sure, I understand. So then we get called upon to make our statement, and then the commissioners are hearing it all at that one time.
Yes.
Even though the item isn't brought up until later on in the afternoon.
Correct. Just like our meetings.
Okay. Got it.
Last week, there was 180 people in the queue. You get 1 minute, so you could be called anywhere within that 3-hour period. You got to sit tight
Correct.
for 3 hours, and that's tough for me. But I can try. But I'm alone in my office tomorrow. I can try. It might pass me by if I'm not, available. I really don't like that, but.
And if you're not able to, I think the next best thing to do is ask, your son, Irving, or someone else, perhaps Cindy, somebody who you think can be available. I think it's mission critical. This is the vote. This will be
either myself or my son. I'll get.
This is it. There's no more delaying.
I can be in and out, but that may not work.
Sure.
It was Tuesday last. That was tough. But then they canned it, which was.
Well, I will tell you the reason why they invoked it, not to get too technical, but the reason why the 4-day rule was invoked, I will tell you in retrospect, was really a godsend because they were ready to steamroll that thing without us. And thanks in large part to other commissioners, unfortunately, none of which represent our district, I should point out very pointedly and candidly, came to our rescue to insist that item not be heard the way it was drafted, because it would have been a disservice to the residents of District 3 in the Miami-Dade County, which includes, of course, Wynwood, Midtown, and Edgewater. So because that item was deferred, it was punted to the committee that spoke last Thursday on the topic. And now it comes back to the commission on Tuesday. So I do not know where Chairwoman Edmondson stands on this topic, which is very disturbing, again, because she is our elected official at the county and has ignored all of our outreach attempts to get the item amended. I will point out that Federica Wilson, our congresswoman who represents this beautiful part of Miami-Dade County that we all reside in, or at least have businesses and property in Wynwood, has come out in staunch support and has made it very clear to the administration at the county and all of the county commissioners that if this particular project with commuter rail aspires to avail itself of federal funding, a Wynwood Midtown Edgewater station has to be a part of the plan. Rest assured that we have been working around the clock with our friends in DC and in Tallahassee to circumvent whatever efforts were getting in the way locally, which was a travesty because, as everybody here knows, the Wynwood Midtown Edgewater station location would serve more residents, commuters, and visitors than any other station in all of Miami-Dade County. And the fact that we're not being recognized as a priority location is really unfortunate, I have to say mildly. So I'll save any more harsher comments for another venue and time. But again, the mission at hand is tomorrow, gentlemen, to rally support. Again, to speak on behalf of this item, we're rather feeling confident this will be the final vote.
Okay.
So what happens? It's either going to be approved or not approved, and
That's it.
then it'll go on for edification and modification in the future.
It'll get recognized as a priority location, and then that'll kind of start the process to allow the county to then start putting out the specific details to get these stations identified, built out, spec'd, funded, constructed, and up and running by 2022.
So it's a resolution to that the county will be, they'll be voting on it. The commissioners are voting on a resolution that is just this one and only reading. There's not two readings for this.
There is no other reading other than this one, gentlemen. This
Okay.
is it.
Okay, I'm going to commit myself to, I mean, as soon as I can, get signed up, I'm committed to, I'll do whatever I have to do tomorrow to make sure that I'm on that call to be able to voice my comments as a board member.
Thank you. And please, when you do get that email from the bid, share it with your tenants, share it with your employees. I mean, this is obviously a benefit to your employees, to your tenants, to their employees. This is a very opportune moment, in the neighborhood's evolution to ensure that we provide transit solutions as we continue to expand. So definitely happy to hear that the board members are going to be engaged. But I think hearing from anyone and everybody on this topic is going to be as impactful moving forward. Sorry that I'm passionate about this. It's just, this has been a fight, as you all know, and I really appreciate that everybody has been supporting and being engaged. I know that David and Glenn, as well as Philippe from the Bar and Restaurant Association group, spoke up last Thursday, as did Jessica Goldman and a few others. So we're just asking that everybody keep their eye on the ball, because part of the strategy, gentlemen, as you may know, is that they try to wear us out and hope that our support kind of fizzles so they can carry out their original intent, which unfortunately in this case doesn't include us. So I'm confident if we keep the pressure, we will triumph.
Okay.
Any other questions on commuter rail? All right, seeing none, we're going to bring on Taylor from Kivett to provide the Kivett PR update.
Hello, everyone. Taylor Cavazos from Kivett PR. Again, board, thank you for your continued efforts as we continue to push for a commuter rail and a station in Wynwood. As Albert said, the data is on our side in terms of resident growth, business growth. And so we continue to reach out to local, regional, and even national press with each kind of moment that this advocacy has. So obviously, Wynwood's been advocating for a rail for years, but we really kicked things up in terms of a comprehensive digital and earned media strategy leading up to the vote tomorrow. We've used new studies like the Kimley Horn study, new partnerships like the Northeast Corridor Coalition to continue to reach out to press and keep this on top of everyone's minds. Of course, when we heard as soon as it would be on the agenda for the county committee meeting tomorrow, we continue to reach out to broadcast and other local press who maybe hasn't covered or has confirmed a story but not ran a feature yet. So we will be in touch with more media hits referring to commuter rail today, and then obviously tomorrow following the vote. There's a lot going on in terms of new development in Wynwood, which is obviously a great thing and a testament to the board's hard work. But in addition to the commuter rail, we also have the streetscape and Warner master plan, which should be approved by the city. They're going to have a meeting on Thursday, on October 12th. So again, we have already secured some advanced stories through the PZAB approval in Miami Today, Miami New Times, which is great because they're mostly focused around like lifestyle and entertainment. So for them to write about the Warner was a great hit for us. And El Nuevo Herald. So we continue to go out to these publications and obviously expect a lot more stories to post once the Warner and Streetscape Master Plan is approved by the city. So we are again reaching out to press leading up to and directly following that meeting. Something else that pairs with this, and just want to put it on your radar, are the NRD zoning changes. With the new development pipeline on the website, this is something we can pitch for future development in Wynwood. But we really did want to focus on a lot of the noise changes. We worked very hard as a board and with business owners to change some of those noise restrictions in the NRD. So that's another thing that we've already written a press release about, and we already have that lined up kind of once we get past this week. It's a very important week. And then finally, I just want to say that we continue to push Albert, Manny, other bid board members for any business coverage regarding Wynwood. We were able to get national hits in CBS Evening News and most recently the Associated Press for just what Wynwood is doing to make sure that we are ready to welcome visitors back to the neighborhood safely. And as Albert said, we will meet with Commander Kerr to make sure that we are prepared and sharing anything necessary regarding what Wynwood's doing to prepare for Halloween. Finally, just wanted to say, you saw that wonderful presentation from Chris about NewsLink and the social media challenges, the social media challenges that are running throughout the month. This is great because Wynwood did so much in terms of expanding outdoor seating for restaurants. And now this is supposed to help some of the more wellness businesses, the Museum of Graffiti, Frangipani. So we are pushing that out as well. There's a lot going on, but that's never a bad thing. And we will keep you posted on any new hits. And that's all I have for me on my end.
Thank you, Taylor. Any questions for Taylor and the work at Kivett?
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Taylor.
Just want to point out, so Philippe Khalifa, the owner of El Patio and the president of the Wynwood Bar and Restaurant Association, was profiled on the national CBS Evening News. That was a media component that was managed by the bid, and I believe his story was actually the second lead story that night when it ran on the newscast, and it was of course on the website, and it was really giving the perspective of the business owners who at that moment were still closed, and making the case for them as to allowing them to reopen. This was of course before the governor's recent emergency order redaction, I guess. We're working on all sides of the coin to get the word out nationally. I will also point out that yesterday's national NBC Evening Newscast featured Wynwood, again, as their second top story, talking about the mayhem with all the different conflicting orders coming from the city, county, and the state. And unfortunately, it did show Wynwood in a bit of a chaotic environment, showing a lot of the social videos that were circulated that did not show people conducting themselves responsibly. So we have to be very careful because we're very excited that our businesses are reopened. We just want to make sure people know that it's safe to come here and that our business community is taking all the necessary precautions. So it's a very delicate balancing act that we're trying to juggle here. So with that kind of wraps up the marketing and economic development portion, unless there's any final questions from the board. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to capital and regulatory affairs, and Manny's going to give us a wayfinding initiative update.
All right, so I'll be brief, everybody. In regards to the wayfinding initiative, we had on September 25th, 2 meetings, one at 9:30 and one at 11:30. The one at 9:30, we had it with Mergy and with Big Bus, Revel, and some other, the lifts, transportation providers of Wynwood. And John Bozio, which is the representative of Mergy, wanted to get feedback from these folks in regards to, their Wynwood experience. So just some brief points out of that meeting. Big Bus stated that 82% of their visitors get off in Wynwood, which is their highest number when it comes down to buses and tour buses. Thus, they want to create their own Wynwood route because of this. So we have now surpassed Miami Beach when it comes to the Big Bus. And the comment that he said is the people want to come out to have something to eat and also the Instagram component that folks could Instagram from the neighborhood. So that's what he gets feedback from. We also attach some lift maps that show you the heat index of where they typically pick up folks. That was shared with John. We also spoke about the need to make the signs that are right now. We have various Lyft parking signs or Uber, and the Miami Parking Authority put those up themselves, and they have given us the okay to change those signs to mirror the style of our upcoming signs. They also agreed to put a barcode on the 10 parking machines that they have in Wynwood to allow for maps to also be generated when people take a picture. In regards to the 1130, we talked about the need for brick and mortar garages to have different signs than temporary parking lots. We also spoke of putting names of parking lots on the signs so folks know when they're coming, they could look at the website or they could reference the sign and actually know what garage name that they want to go to. Within your packet, you also see some exit signs. And these are signs that FDOT puts throughout various parts of the city. You're going to see that Design District. These are just some of the ones that we remembered. They have about 4 on the highways. Coconut Grove has one on 17th. They have it on US 1. We have exits on I-395 for Bayside and museums. So we spoke to John about also installing Wynwood signs on these FDOT highways and streets, and he totally agrees it could be done. The magic of this is that we're using the train statistics that show us the number of visitors and show us the number of people in this area to justify the need for signage. So he feels that if Design District was able to get that, comparing ours to our number of visitors, we do qualify for these types of signs. We also spoke about the tour bus on 2nd Avenue. Right now, it's sharing a location with a Metro bus, so we would primarily like it to be on 2nd Avenue to unload in a place of preference that's not a tour bus zone, because a Metro bus, because once the Metro bus comes and the trolley, and then you get the big bus, you actually have a line that causes traffic because it blocks the street out. We had Ike from the representative from the camera folks. They have also agreed to install their camera feed from inside of the kiosks to our Wynwood security network. So if someone would press the kiosk, that network would come within versus an independent. So that's going to save them time. And we also created new parking maps out of the meetings that we had on the 25th that are already on the Wynwood site. So once we had these meetings with John, I have to thank Marlo for the golf cart. Thank you so much. He came by in October, and Alec and I took him around all of Wynwood so he could get an idea. We took him around the outer boundaries, inner boundaries, through the potential train stations, and we showed him the conflict. He agrees that he should put a note in the report that there should be an exit off I-95 off 6th Avenue. He got to see how the traffic would literally be relieved tenfold if that was done when we showed him what was happening on I-95. So now the next steps of the process are going to be, he has now synthesized the information. We've given him maps, we've given him input. The next step is to have a meeting with the Wynwood bid board. He wants to go in depth with you folks on what you guys recommend, what you guys envision from this plan. And then from there, he wants to develop the outline of how we're going to fund this every year, similar to the cameras. So we have some funds this year allocated. The bid board has to make a preference on the design, locations, and steps. And that meeting we'll have shortly once I communicate with all the bid board members on availability. I know that right now we're with the train and all that stuff, but that is the next step. Other than that, that's all I have for signage. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Manny. And just to clarify, that won't be at our typical board meeting. That'll be a specific meeting for wayfinding for the board members to attend.
Yes, yeah, Chairman. We're unfortunately or fortunately, we're going to need more time than just an update, you know, for this is going to be about an hour, hour and a half, because he has stuff to present to us, but this is strictly for the bid board. Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. Any questions for Manny on wayfinding? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the NRD1 amendment section of our agenda. Just several updates. So the Streetscape Master Plan and the related NRD1 amendments that this board passed unanimously and that PZAB also endorsed overwhelmingly is going to be on the City of Miami Commission hearing this Thursday, October 22nd. There will also be a separate email sent later today, similar to the county commission email that is going out on commuter rail. This one will be going out specific to encourage folks to participate in public comments on Thursday's meeting to speak in support of the adoption of the Wynwood Streetscape Master Plan and the related NRD1 amendments. We are on the PZ side of the agenda. It's PZ items 17 and PZ 18. Those are for the Streetscape Master Plan and the NRD1 amendments. There is also the Public Works Right-of-Way Trust Fund element, which will also be on that agenda, and that is under item FR2. So the good news is that we do stick to the schedule as we have had so far on this topic, having the item for first reading this Thursday, and then it will come back for a second reading a month later. So any questions on that particular development before I move on?
These are both first readings, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, similar to how we just kind of outlined with the county commission, we'll ask board members, property owners, business owners, key stakeholders to also sign up for public comments on Thursday. That meeting also begins at 9:30, and similarly, it's going to be a virtual meeting, so you can provide your comments at the beginning of the meeting. We will also send out a list of email addresses for the City of Miami, as well as talking points for folks to have in advance of that meeting as well. All right, moving on next to the sidewalk and street vendors. Those are separate amendments also to the NRD1. Those were presented to the City Commission on October 8th. The City Manager's Office presented on our behalf. Happy to say that it was passed unanimously by all the commissioners. It does require a second reading, so it will come back on the agenda in November. Again, as a reminder, this is to abolish these vending districts that not only for some reason survived here in Wynwood, but also in parts of Coconut Grove, Biscayne Boulevard, around the arena, and other parts of the city of Miami to bring these up to date with the current and future uses of these areas. So we'll keep you posted on that one as well. And then lastly, on the agenda is the noise ordinance pilot program. So again, as we all know here, this board adopted a set of recommendations for the City Commission to consider amending Chapter 36, the noise ordinance in the City of Miami. So we do anticipate that that will be on the City Commission agenda as well in November. So we will keep you posted once a date has been established so that folks can also prepare to be engaged on that topic through public comments as well as other means to ensure support. I'm going to ask Chris to bring us back up on screen. I know we have a lot of pending items before the city and the county, so if there's any questions on any of the above or anything else, happy to answer questions. Okay. No questions. All right. So that concludes the Capital and Regulatory Affairs section. Now we move on to new business. Do any board members have any topics they'd like to introduce for new business today?
I would just like to get an update. We received an email last week about Mastech doing some work out on 2nd Avenue, and the impacts there. So I don't, is there a, that is moving ahead and going forward? Because just want to understand, because there seem to be, there will be some traffic flow impacts and other, other issues, with that. Can Alexander, can you
Yes.
tell us more?
Can you hear me, Marlo?
Yes.
So yes, a representative from Mastec reached out to us, I believe, on Friday, and I immediately, expressed some concerns because, this is busy season. It's affecting Northwest 2nd Avenue for a considerable length of time. They said that the work is going to be about 2 months. Yes, and they're starting. They're actually started today. They're ready. They're doing staging on 2nd Avenue, and they're basically going to be taking up the driving lane southbound on 2nd Avenue and the parking, and they're working their way down 2nd Avenue, but you know, we can obviously talk with them and coordinate to basically ensure that it doesn't affect Wynwood walls whenever they open. And yeah, it's pretty much unfortunate timing on their part.
So Marlo, I think what we can do is, offline, you can follow up directly with Alexander, and just to the degree that, you guys have your operating plans in place for kitchen and bar and Joey's and the walls figured out, just to make sure that that segment of the work is done either prior to or in a way that doesn't interrupt your reopening efforts. Okay?
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other items for new business from the board? All right, I have one last one. I'm going to ask Manny to circulate a article that ran in the Miami Herald just a few days ago, something that I'd like to bring on the agenda for the next board meeting. You may have read this article. It's regarding Blackstone. This is obviously a large, super large private fund, asset manager, headquartered in New York, that is going to be relocating a big portion of their operations to South Florida. As we all know, one of the, I guess, positive things for us, at least here in South Florida from the pandemic, is a lot of the folks from the Northeast, whether it's in the tech sector, finance sector, are looking to relocate and perhaps, bifurcate their headquarters and move on south. So the Downtown Development Authority, the DDA, has set a tax credit to entice companies like Blackstone to move to South Florida, and in particular to move their offices to downtown Miami, to make it that much more attractive to set and establish their homes in downtown. Well, that's a great program, and obviously, it's wonderful to have these companies move to South Florida. We also do have opportunities to, I think, compete and also make a compelling opportunity for companies that want to move to South Florida to also consider moving their offices to Wynwood. As we all know, we have 545 Wynn from Sterling Bay. There's the Wynwood Annex. There's also Strata Wynwood, which is formerly known as Wynwood Square from CIM, which is nearing completion of construction, as well as Wynwood Gateway and several other office projects that have either been recently completed or are under construction or in development. So I think as we continue to see that there's increased opportunities to attract and retain new office users down here to South Florida, it's going to be very competitive for us in Wynwood to compete against folks like downtown and Doral and other places that are going to also be looking to do something very similar. So I'm going to be asking Manny again to circulate that article from the Miami Herald, which kind of explains the joint venture that was entered into between the Beacon Council of Miami-Dade County and the Downtown Development Authority. And I'd love for you guys to have some ideas and some other thoughts on what we should and can do here as a bid to do our part to help our private developers succeed once these projects are completed. Are there any questions or thoughts that you guys want to hit at on this topic at the moment? Manny, go ahead. I see your hand.
So I was fortunate enough to be part of one of these mass corporate moves in Coconut Grove. When I got to Coconut Grove in 2009, it was a neighborhood that began at 5 or at 6 for happy hour, and nothing would happen during the day. And I know that the owner of the Mayfair Hotel, Timo Kip, I don't know how he did it, but he worked with Miami-Dade County for the same type of move in which he was able to get credits to move Sapient from Lincoln Road to Grand Avenue. So it's been done before. I don't think we need, as a district, I think we just have to work with the city and our property owners and get into whatever that department is. And we could start with the Beacon Council because that seems to be one of them. But I think it's just a matter of us connecting the dots with whoever at the county is in charge of stealing, employees from another county. And maybe we could get ourselves into that narrative. But it's been done before in the Grove. So who knows? I don't think it could be that hard. But we need the help of our developers, of course.
JP, not to put you on the spot, but I would assume you'd be.
I mean, look, I agree. I don't know what is, I mean, other than, like, you mentioned Blackstone. I've reached out directly to Jonathan Gray to get him to look at the neighborhood. So, if we could team up with one of those organizations to create, you would think that the Beacon Council and the DDA would automatically say, hey, Jonathan Gray, what do you want? I'm going to give you whatever you need. Open your office in Miami. But we're in Miami, and Miami doesn't work like that just because we've never been good at that. So I think maybe we organize a meeting or a call or something with those groups and say, hey, look, we, as the Wynwood bid, would love to brainstorm and come up with additional incentives with you, with us, with whoever, to really go after this whale of a tenant, because we don't want to lose him, right? And whether he falls in Wynwood or he falls in somewhere else, he needs to fall in Miami, because then he's the first guy that others will follow. So I think it's very important that I'll do my part and reach out directly to those organizations, but it'd be good that they hear from the bid itself as a neighborhood that's will back them and be behind them.
Terrific.
Sorry, Chairman, but we need to sell Wynwood as the anti-thesis to traffic, to like, hey, this is a techie neighborhood. Your employees fit here better than in a continent called downtown. Here you could lead the tech revolution. Here you could, and I think there's more to gain in Wynwood than Brickell traffic.
Yeah, and it's actually their technology department. So it's not necessarily their investment professionals like the banker, the investment guy. This is their technology side, and I don't necessarily know. I don't understand exactly what that means yet, but that Wynwood seems to be the best fit for that group coming from Blackstone. It's just convincing Blackstone that Wynwood is the tech place, the cool place. This is where your employees are going to want to live. So there needs to be a presentation done, which we're doing privately as a landlord that has office, to groups like that, to get them excited and eventually to come down, because Wynwood does land Blackstone. It's endless from there, right? Everybody wants to be around the biggest and the baddest. So,
I think, I think whenever technology is mentioned, I think what we're really saying in our outreach is you have a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the area, so you can easily network. There's a lot of pool of tool and talent. So, you have the Wing Code Academy and what have you, and in the area, and you have flexible spaces as well. And you also have other stakeholders who, it could be there's some VC firms also in the area who, like to reside in Wynwood because Wynwood is the place to be. That would be, I think a multi-layered approach into saying, hey, look, this is why you want to come to Wynwood.
Yeah, so, we'll bring this back on the agenda. We'll do some research. I mean, there is stuff to be done with the commission at the county level. In particular, for example, Eileen Higgins, who's the district commissioner for the downtown Miami area, actually passed a resolution at the county commission earlier this year specific to this particular topic, and they allocated county funds to match the DDA's program. So, our county commissioner seat is up for election on November 3rd. So, I think once that new commissioner has been elected, I think this should be one of the topics that we bring to him or her as well, because, it's one thing to pitch and do it individually and or collectively, but it's also even better to have the county and the Beacon Council and all the other arms of government speaking in unison, because wherever that first call may come in, we want to make sure that it all gets funneled back to us here in Wynwood. JP, if your team is working on a pitch already, and to the degree that you're comfortable sharing that with us, we're happy to help you guys fill in any voids that we think, can talk up the neighborhood, and happy to provide any sort of support as well, to any of the other developers in the neighborhood that are, trying to pursue any other tenants. I mean, that should just not be said or have to be said, but I'm stating it, of course, again, just to remind everybody, because that's really what we need here. It supports our F&B, it supports our hospitality and lodging, and all the things that we're working towards here every day. So this is a very big priority, making sure we can bring more office, especially that type of tenant, I think is a game changer for the neighborhood. All right, so if there's any other new business items that you guys want to bring on for the next agenda in November, please let Manny know. November will be a short month because of Thanksgiving week. So just keep that in mind. We are going to be sending out a save the date for the November meeting, probably hopefully by next week. And also I should point out that this may be our last virtual board meeting. The governor's emergency order declaration allowing us to meet virtually expires at the end of October. So we don't know yet if he's going to extend it, but if he doesn't, we will then be required to meet in person in November. So staff and I have already been speaking about this, and we will, of course, let everybody know. So if you have any concerns, I know health and safety is very important for everybody here, and the staff will obviously take any feedback under consideration, but that may be our first in-person meeting of the last 7 months. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, we're about to adjourn. Any last thoughts, questions, comments before we do so? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
All right, second?
Second.
All right, we recognize Glenn and Sven. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Again, to learn more about the Wynwood bid, visit us online at wynwoodmiami.com. On behalf of the Wynwood Bid Board of Directors, thank you again for tuning in today. You can learn more about us again online or at Wynwood Miami on social.
Thank you.
Thanks again, and we'll see you guys soon. Stay safe.